My twin sister cheated on my best friend, and my parents forced me to choose between them. I cut contact with my entire family. But 3 years later, she abandoned them, just like they abandoned me, and now they're begging for forgiveness. I'm 32 years old, I own a restaurant, and I haven't spoken to my parents or my twin sister in 3 years. And honestly, I don't regret it at all. I know that sounds harsh. I mean, they're my blood family and all that. But after what they did to me, after how they treated me my whole life, and especially after they basically told me to choose between them and my sister, and discarded me without thinking twice, I don't feel anything for them. Well, maybe I feel something, but it's not love exactly. It's more like a mix of resentment and, I don't know, satisfaction? Because in the end, it turned out I was right about everything and they ended up exactly how they deserved. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning so you understand why this story gives me so much satisfaction to tell. Ashley and I are twins. She was born 16 minutes after me, something that always bothered her because technically I'm the older one. But those 16 minutes were basically the only 16 minutes of my life where I was my parents' favorite. For as long as I can remember, Ashley was the golden child, the perfect princess, the one who could do whatever she wanted without consequences. I could get good grades, help around the house, do everything right, and my parents, Anthony and Donna, barely noticed me. Ashley could fail a test, come home late, lie blatantly, and they always had an excuse for her. My father, Anthony, retired from real estate a few years ago, like at 60-something, and my mother, Donna, is a college history professor. They're both educated people, supposedly intelligent, but when it came to Ashley, they completely lost their common sense. We grew up in a house where basically everything revolved around her. If I wanted to do something, like join the soccer team, my parents said they didn't have time to take me to practice because Ashley had ballet classes. If I wanted to invite friends over, my parents said no because Ashley was studying, even though she was actually watching TV. At Christmas, Ashley got twice as many gifts as me. And when I complained, my mother told me I was selfish and that girls needed more things. I learned from a very young age that in that family, I was the second choice, the one who had to settle for the scraps of my parents' attention and love. When we got to college, I went as far away as I could. I wanted to escape that toxic dynamic, you know? Ashley stayed closer to home, obviously, because she couldn't be away from mom and dad. I studied business administration because I always wanted to have my own business, something of my own that nobody could take from me. And it was in college where I met Justin, who basically became my best friend, the brother that Ashley never was to me. Justin was an amazing guy, studied engineering, was funny, loyal, reliable. Everything you look for in a friend. We spent all our time together, studied together, went out on weekends, that kind of friendship you know is going to last. A lifetime. In our 3rd year of college, Justin asked me to introduce him to my sister. Honestly, I should have told him no. I should have made up any excuse. But at that moment, I thought that maybe if Ashley met my best friend, we could finally have something in common. You know what I mean? I thought maybe that would improve our sibling relationship. It was literally the worst decision I've ever made in my life. Justin and Ashley started dating, and at first everything seemed to go well. Justin was in love, like completely head over heels for her, and Ashley seemed happy too. They dated for 6 years before getting married, and during all that time, Justin was the perfect boyfriend. He bought her flowers, took her to nice restaurants, planned surprise trips, was attentive, caring, everything a person could want in a partner. My parents, of course, loved Justin because he was successful and treated Ashley well. But they never really saw him as a son-in-law. They treated him more like an accessory to Ashley, something that made her look better. During the wedding, which was gigantic and cost a fortune, my parents paid for everything, obviously. While when I mentioned that someday I'd like to get married, they told me I'd have to pay for it myself. My parents practically ignored Justin's parents. It was awkward, honestly, but Justin was such a good person that he never said anything. I worked several years after graduating, saved everything I could, and finally was able to open my own restaurant. It wasn't anything fancy at first, like a small place with capacity for 40 people, but it was mine, and I was proud of that. My parents came once to the opening, stayed 20 minutes, barely ate, and left because Ashley needed help with something. I don't even remember what. Justin and Ashley had been married for like 2 years when everything exploded. I was at the restaurant. It was a normal Tuesday, nothing special. And suddenly Justin showed up and he looked destroyed, like physically sick. He sat at a table in the back, and when I approached him, he told me that Ashley was cheating on him with a guy from work. He had discovered it because she left her phone unlocked, and he saw the messages. They weren't just innocent messages. They were explicit conversations, plans to meet up, everything. Justin was crying. And I had never seen my best friend cry. And I felt a rage I can't even describe. Not rage at Justin, obviously, but at Ashley. I told Justin to stay at my apartment for as long as he needed, that I would support him in whatever he needed, and he thanked me but said he had to confront Ashley. That night, Justin confronted Ashley, and she didn't even deny the infidelity. According to what Justin told me later, she basically told him that she had fallen in love with the other guy and that she wanted a divorce. Just like that, after 8 years together and 2 of marriage. Justin was completely devastated, but decided to divorce because he wasn't going to stay with someone who betrayed him like that. During the following weeks, I was with Justin practically every day, helping him with the divorce process, listening to him when he needed to talk, making sure he ate and slept. He was my best friend, and what Ashley did to him was unforgivable. Then Ashley called me. I think it was like a week after Justin moved out of the house they shared. I expected her to call to apologize or at least to explain to me what the hell she was thinking, but no. She called to demand, literally demand, that I stop being friends with Justin. She told me I was her twin sister, that I had to be on her side no matter what, and that if I kept being friends with Justin, I was betraying her. I told her she was crazy, that Justin was my best friend since before she met him, that he didn't do anything wrong, and that she was the one who cheated and destroyed her marriage. She got furious, started yelling at me on the phone, telling me I was a bad brother, that I had always been selfish, that I never cared about her. I hung up on her because I wasn't going to listen to that nonsense. 2 days later, my parents called me for a family meeting. I knew it wasn't going to be anything good, but I went because, I don't know, I guess I had hope that my parents for once in their life would see things clearly and understand that Ashley was completely wrong. I went to their house, which was the same house where we grew up, and Ashley was there with them. My father started the show saying we needed to resolve this as a family, that families stick together in difficult times. I told him I agreed, that Justin was like family to me and that's why I was supporting him. Ashley immediately started crying. That manipulative crying she always used to get what she wanted, and my mother hugged her and looked at me like I was a monster. My father then told me directly that I had to choose, that either I stopped being friends with Justin or I was going to lose my family. I asked him if he was serious, if they were really giving me that ultimatum when Ashley was clearly at fault for everything. My mother intervened, saying that marriages are complicated, that maybe Justin wasn't as good a husband as he seemed, that maybe Ashley had reasons to seek affection elsewhere. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They were justifying Ashley's infidelity. They were blaming Justin for being cheated on. I told them to listen to themselves, that they were defending the indefensible just because Ashley was their golden child and could never do anything wrong in their eyes. Ashley then made her master move. She told our parents that if I kept being friends with Justin, she wasn't going to talk to them anymore, just like that. She gave them an ultimatum, me or her, and everyone in that room knew what the answer was going to be. My father looked at me and told me I had a week to make my decision, that he hoped I would reconsider my priorities. I told them I've already made my decision, that I wasn't going to abandon my best friend to please a manipulative liar. My mother started crying. Donna was always emotionally fragile, or at least that's what they said, although I think she used that trait to manipulate situations. I left that house and decided that if my parents wanted to choose Ashley over me, that was fine. They could have their perfect family, the 3 of them together. The week passed, and neither my parents nor Ashley contacted me. I didn't contact them either. Justin kept coming to the restaurant. We had dinner together, we talked. We remained best friends. He felt guilty that I had lost contact with my family because of him, but I told him it wasn't his fault, that this was something that had been coming for years, that he was just the catalyst that exposed the true nature of my family. Months passed and turned into years. 3 full years without talking to my parents or Ashley. And honestly, they were 3 of the best years of my life. My restaurant started to take off, Like a year and a half after all the family drama, a very popular food blogger in the city came to eat and wrote an amazing review. He said my restaurant had the best authentic Italian food in the area, that the atmosphere was cozy, that the service was excellent. The review went viral on social media, and suddenly we had reservations months in advance. I had to hire more staff, expand the place, raise prices because the demand was insane. From being a small restaurant that barely gave me enough to live on, I went to having a successful business that generated very good income for me. Justin helped me with the systems part. We implemented an online reservation system, improved the whole digital part of the business. I was living my best life, surrounded by people who really appreciated me, doing what I loved, without the toxicity of my family ruining my peace of mind. And then, like 3 months ago, my parents showed up at the restaurant. Without warning, without calling first, they just showed up on a Thursday afternoon. At first I froze because I hadn't seen them in 3 years, and honestly, didn't know what to expect. My father, Anthony, looked older. He was like 63 at that time, I think, and my mother also seemed to have aged a lot. They sat at a table and asked me to sit with them. I had work to do, but my manager told me he'd take care of it, so I sat down. I expected an apology. I expected them to come tell me they had been wrong, that they had been unfair, something that indicated they recognized the damage they had done to me. But no. My father started with small talk, saying the restaurant looked very good, that he had heard it was having a lot of success, that he was proud of me. I told him it was a little late to be proud, that he hadn't been present during any part of that success. My mother then started with her act, with teary eyes saying they missed me, that these 3 years had been very difficult for them. I just nodded, waiting for them to get to the real point of their visit, because clearly they didn't just come to tell me they missed me. And then my father dropped the bomb. Ashley was getting married again, to the guy she cheated on Justin with, obviously, and they were planning a big wedding. And here comes the part that still makes me laugh when I tell it. They asked me if I could contribute money for the wedding. I stared at them like they had said the most ridiculous thing in the world, because basically they had. I asked them how much money they were asking for, like expecting them to say something reasonable. I don't know. $5,000? Maybe $10,000? My father said $90,000. $90,000 for Ashley's second wedding to the guy she cheated on my best friend with. I honestly laughed. I couldn't help it. I laughed in their faces. I asked them if they were serious, if they really thought that after 3 years of not talking to me, of choosing Ashley over me, of supporting her in her infidelity, I was going to give them $90,000 for her wedding. My father said we were family, that families help each other. I reminded him that they weren't family to me when I needed them, that they abandoned me for choosing a woman who destroyed my best friend's marriage. My mother started crying, saying I didn't understand how difficult it was for them, that Ashley was pressuring them, that they needed my help. I told them I didn't give a damn if Ashley was pressuring them, that it wasn't my problem, that they chose to put themselves in that position. My father then tried another angle, saying the restaurant was clearly generating a lot of money, that $90,000 wasn't that much for me, that it was the least I could do for my twin sister. And that's when I really exploded. I told them Ashley wasn't my sister, not in the ways that matter, that a sister wouldn't have demanded I abandon my best friend, that real parents wouldn't have chosen one child over another based on who cried louder. I told them something I had been holding in for years. I told them that Ashley didn't really care about them as people, that she only cared about what they could do for her, and that eventually they were going to realize that in the most painful way possible. I told them to leave my restaurant and not to contact me again. My mother kept crying. My father was red with anger, but they left. I thought that would be the end, that they would finally get the message. But Anthony called 2 days later, left a voicemail saying my mother was emotionally broken by my rejection, that she needed to see me, that as her son, I had an obligation to take care of her. I didn't call him back. He called again the next day, and the next, and the next. I finally answered and told him I wasn't going to see my mother unless they both gave me a sincere apology for everything they did to me, and that I definitely wasn't going to give them money for Ashley's wedding. He told me I was being cruel, that I was destroying the family. I told him they destroyed the family 3 years ago, and that if they kept harassing me, I was going to call the police. That finally made him stop. But the story gets better. Much better. Turns out Ashley is so predictable that she basically did exactly what I told my parents she would do. Like a month ago, my cousin Heather, who's pregnant with her first baby, announced at a family gathering that she was going to have a baby shower. Ashley, who had been planning her wedding for 2 months from then, got furious. She accused Heather of trying to steal her spotlight, of doing the baby shower close to her wedding on purpose to take attention away from her. Heather, who's a super calm person normally, told Ashley she was crazy, that she was pregnant, and that her baby shower had nothing to do with her wedding. Ashley told Heather that if she had the baby shower, she didn't want her at her wedding. Heather told her perfect, that she had no interest in going to her wedding anyway, and that she was also going to stop talking to Ashley and my parents for supporting her ridiculous behavior. The news spread fast in the extended family. My uncles, cousins, everyone started talking about what had happened. And this is where everything becomes deliciously ironic. Turns out that during these 3 years, my parents had been telling the whole family that I was the problem, that I had abandoned the family, that I was selfish and didn't care about Ashley. But after the incident with Heather, the family started asking questions. They started connecting the dots. Heather told everyone the real version of what happened between Ashley and me, told them that Ashley had been unfaithful and that I had supported Justin. My cousins started reaching out to me, asking me for my version of the facts, and I told them everything. I told them about the ultimatum, about how my parents abandoned me for choosing Ashley, about how they asked me for $90,000 for her wedding. The family basically turned against my parents and Ashley. My uncles told them their behavior was unacceptable, that they had been terrible to me and to Justin. The family stopped inviting my parents and Ashley to family events. In an act of desperation, my parents made a Facebook post trying to explain their version of the facts, basically blaming me for the family excluding them. They said I had manipulated everyone against them, that I was destroying the family out of spite. The post was a disaster. Like all the comments were from family members telling them they were wrong, that they needed to accept responsibility for their actions. My Aunt Eleanor, my mother's sister, commented saying they had always favored Ashley and that it was time they faced the consequences of that. My parents ended up deleting the post, but the damage was already done. And then came the cherry on top. My parents called Ashley and told her they couldn't give her the $90,000 for the wedding. They told her they had planned to ask me for that money, but that I had refused, and that they didn't have those savings. Ashley, true to her nature, blamed them completely. She told them they were useless, that they ruined her wedding, that she would never forgive them for this. And after that conversation, Ashley stopped talking to them. Completely. She told them she didn't want them at her wedding, that she didn't want to see them again. My parents, the same ones who abandoned me 3 years ago for choosing Ashley, were now being abandoned by Ashley herself. I found out about all this from my cousin Heather, who still has contact with some family members who know what's happening. Heather told me my parents are devastated, that my mother practically doesn't leave her house, that my father is desperately trying to contact Ashley, but she has him blocked. The wedding went ahead, but it was much smaller than she had planned. The groom and his family paid for everything, and it was basically just people from his side. My parents weren't invited. They weren't there to see their favorite daughter get married for the second time. And honestly, I don't feel any pity for them. Heather asked me if I would ever consider reconciling with my parents, if I would give them another chance. I told her the truth, that no, that for 3 years, I've lived without their toxicity, without their favoritism, without having to submit to their emotional manipulations. And I've been happier than I ever was when I had contact with them. Justin and I are still best friends. He met someone new like a year ago, and they're very happy together. He came to my restaurant last week and told me they're thinking about getting engaged. I told him that seemed great to me, that she was an amazing person and that he deserved to be happy after everything that happened with Ashley. Sometimes I think about how things could have been different if my parents had made different decisions 3 years ago. If they had recognized that Ashley was wrong, if they had supported me, if they had seen that I had every right to maintain my friendship with Justin, maybe we would still have a relationship. Maybe they would still be part of my life. But they chose to protect Ashley from the consequences of her own actions. They chose to reward her destructive behavior, and now they're paying the price for those decisions. And the part that gives me the most satisfaction is that everything happened exactly as I told them it would. I warned them that Ashley didn't really care about them, that she only cared about them for what they could do for her. And now they're living that reality. Do I feel bad for my parents? Not really. I mean, there's a very small part of me that feels something. I don't know if it's pity or just the remnants of what was once filial love, but it's not enough to make me want to have contact with them again. They made their bed. Now they have to lie in it, as they say. And Ashley, well, Ashley finally got what she wanted. She married the guy she betrayed Justin for, had her wedding, is living her life. I don't know if she's happy or not, and honestly, I don't care. She stopped being my problem 3 years ago. What surprises me most about all this is how much peace of mind I've gained by eliminating these people from my life. My restaurant keeps growing. I'm considering opening a second location next year. Justin and I remain brothers in everything but blood. I have a life full of people who really appreciate and value me, not for what I can do for them, but for who I am. And at the end of the day, that's what matters, I guess. Not the blood family you're dealt, but the family you choose to build. My parents tried to contact me again like 2 weeks ago. My father sent me a text message saying we needed to talk, that there were things he needed to explain to me. I didn't respond. There's nothing I need to hear from them. There's no explanation that can justify what they did to me. And if they ever try to show up at my restaurant again, I already gave instructions to my staff to kick them out. This is my space, my success, something I built without their help and definitely without their support, and I'm not going to allow them to contaminate that with their presence. The last time I talked to Heather, she told me, Ashley is pregnant. I guess my parents are going to be grandparents, although I don't know if Ashley will allow them to meet the baby. Part of me thinks Ashley will eventually come back to my parents when she needs free babysitters or help with the baby, because that's who she is. She uses people when it suits her and discards them when she doesn't need them anymore. My parents will probably accept any crumb of attention Ashley gives them because they're desperate to have contact with her. It's sad, honestly, to see how adult people lower themselves like that, but again, it's not my problem. Sometimes, when I'm at the restaurant, preparing some dish or checking reservations, I think about how my life could have been if I had given in 3 years ago. If I had abandoned Justin, if I had chosen to keep the peace with my family at the cost of my integrity and my loyalty to my best friend, I would probably still have contact with my parents. I would probably have gone to Ashley's wedding. I would probably be pretending everything is fine. But I wouldn't be happy. I would be living with the weight of having betrayed someone I really cared about, of having submitted once again to Ashley's whims and my parents' unreasonable expectations. And that would have been worse than anything I've experienced in these 3 years. The truth is, these 3 years taught me something valuable, that not everyone deserves a place in your life just because they share your blood, that it's okay to set boundaries. It's okay to say no. It's okay to walk away from people who treat you badly, even if they're your family. And that decisions have consequences. For everyone. My parents decided to choose Ashley over me, and the consequence was losing me. Ashley decided to manipulate our parents with ultimatums, and the consequence was that she eventually did the same to them. Everything has a price, and sometimes that price is higher than people expect to pay. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I don't know if my parents will eventually understand that their actions had consequences, if they'll acknowledge the damage they did to me. Probably not. People rarely really change, especially at their age. But I don't need their acknowledgement or their apologies to move forward with my life. I already did. I already built something better without them. And if they ever feel curious about how I'm doing, if they ever wonder what they're missing, they can look up my restaurant online and read the 5-star reviews. They can see the photos of people enjoying the food I prepare with passion. They can see that despite everything they did to me, despite treating me like the less important son my whole life, I managed to create something successful and meaningful. And I did it without their help, without their support, and definitely without their approval.